Guys, I don't know what happened. All the consoles, they shrunk. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video, and today we're doing mini consoles. Yay! I guess some people can call these plug and play consoles, but I don't for a specific reason. I think that plug and play consoles are like these like cheap crappy things that, you know, like the Jack specific at games type things, where, you know, they are plug and play, and these are plug and play as well, but those to me are like the plug and play games, usually like licensed, usually like Pac-Man or Galaga would be it. But yeah, or like, you know, like the Atari flashback consoles. If we had to rank all of those, including these, into the tier list that we did for the Nintendo controllers, for example, that would those would easily be F tier, whereas these, with some exceptions, are going to be definitely S tier. And we'll get into that. And today we're actually going to be doing this video in 4K, which I don't know if we'll be staying around or not. This is sort of a test to see if I'll be doing 4K on all my videos, some of my videos, or if it's not worth it. So let's start off with the console that started this whole mini console craze, the NES Classic Edition. So yeah, back in 2016, we now know this to be the last year of the Wii U, which obviously wasn't doing good at this point. You know, Nintendo was teasing the NX at the time. Remember that concept art or that patent or whatever that had like the screen on the controller and stuff like that. And yeah, so we knew that at some point that the next generation Nintendo console would be coming out. So I think Nintendo knew, well, okay, no one's going to be buying a Wii U this year, so we need to have something to release for Christmas. So boom, they came out with this, the NES Classic Edition. 30 games in one, and you know, this was a pretty cool idea at the time. We've had plug and play consoles, I said before, but plug and play consoles to me are usually like pretty much all crap. They are usually quite trash. They have like 5 good games and then like 80 crappy ones. They have the shittiest controllers known to man. They just suck. But with this one was different, because not only is the console itself a really good replica. Like before, most of those plug and play games aren't really a good replica console. They just sort of, you know, look something like the console, except for those Atari flashback ones. They're still crap, but they did sort of look like the 2600. With these, they pretty much looked exactly like it. If you take a regular old school VCR, toaster, NES, I mean, like, it's pretty darn close. Like, I mean, obviously the ports and stuff aren't the same on the side, as you know, it'd be kind of stupid just to have a ports that do nothing here. But I mean, like, everything else, yeah, mine's had some repairs done, if you can tell. But I mean, everything else is pretty darn good, even the little screws on the bottom. So I mean, honestly, like, in terms of looks, I mean, this one's pretty on point. So, I mean, I think that's pretty awesome. So, yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the best looking mini consoles. This came out in November of 2016. We knew about the Switch coming out at this point because the Switch trailer was October of 2016. So, obviously, no one would be buying a Wii U at this point because the Switch was going to come out in a few months. So, yeah, Nintendo released this, so they had something to sell for the holidays. And I would say, you know what? This was a pretty good holiday gift. It came out for $60, and it came with 30 games, and let's just quickly go over those games first. So first of all, we have Balloon Fight. I think a pretty good NES game right there. Bubble Bobble. I don't think that one's as well known, but I mean, not a bad game at all. Castlevania, a good staple of the NES right there. Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. I never played it. I think the legacy of this game is a lot of angry video game nerd, but I hear it's actually a pretty decent game. Donkey Kong, not as good as the arcade version, but again, a good classic NES game. Donkey Kong Jr. Again, I don't think it's as famous, but I don't really see a problem with it. Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. Yeah, why not? Dr. Mario. Yeah, a good classic NES game. Excite Bike, again, another classic black box NES game. Final Fantasy, yeah, I definitely say this is a good pick there. This helps it appeal much more to the hardcore crowd, which is always a good thing. Galaga, again, another classic arcade game. Ghosts and Goblins, Gradius. I don't remember what this game is. Oopsie. Ice Climbers. I feel like this is more of a Nintendo fan game, not like a general game. Same with Kid Icarus. But I mean, like, again, no problem with this. Kirby's Adventure. I mean, yeah, a Kirby game on here is a great idea. Mario Bros. This is, the original Mario Bros. The arcade game. Yeah, good choice as well. Mega Man 2, classic NES game. Really good it was on there. Nintendo paid the licensing. Metroid, of course. Ninja Gaiden, the first one. Great game. Pac-Man, again, I think that was mostly because they wanted to put Pac-Man on the box here. That was like, oh, it's got Pac-Man. I think that was more for the casual crowd, because the NES version of Pac-Man it's okay. Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream. It would have been cool if they got the Mike Tyson version, but I think they still can't really license it very well, so yeah, Punch-Out. StaraaTropics, kind of obscure. I think this is more for the hardcore crowd. Super C. I find it weird that they have Super C, but they do not have Contra. I mean, I think Super C is a better game, but yeah, I feel like if they should have put the original Contra on here over Super C. Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3. Pretty cool games. I mean, they're the Super Mario Bros. I wish they put the Lost Levels on here. For some reason, Lost Levels is not on this one or the Super Famicom version, and I found that to be so weird that it's not even on the Japanese version. Super Mario Bros. USA, if you don't know, is the Japanese name for Super Mario Bros. 2, because our Super Mario Bros. 2 is a game called Doki Doki Panic. It had some licensed characters in it. I can't remember their names. There's a great video about a gaming historian on it, which I will put up on screen here and put a little card in. But eventually they lost the license to it, and our Super Mario Bros. 2, because they didn't want to release Lost Levels because it looked the same and it was too hard, they took the Doki Doki Panic and called it Super Mario Bros. 2 here, and then they re-released it in Japan once they lost the license as Mario Bros. USA, and then Mario 3 is the same in both America and Japan. But yeah, it's weird. Lost Levels, or Mario Bros. 2, like the original Mario Bros. 2 or Lost Levels, is not on the Famicom version or the NES version. I think they should have put Lost Levels on here. Lost Levels has been released several times, but I think it would have been cool for like the less educated crowd to be like, oh my god, there's a secret Mario game in here, I gotta buy this. So yeah, I feel like it was a little bit of a disappointment they didn't put Lost Levels in here. Tamiko Ball, great casual game, great football game on the NES. Legend of Zelda and Legend of Zelda 2. Yeah, of course, you gotta have Zelda and Zelda 2 on here. But yeah, I mean, pretty much, I think most of the games on here are pretty good. I would say there's maybe only like 3 or 4 games that, you know, could have been on here that aren't. Not including Lost Levels, if it's like a bonus game. But, yeah, I think, great little system, too. And, speaking of not only the system, let's talk about what you need to play the games. The controller. I really like this controller. It is so good. The buttons on this controller feel amazing, like, compared. I have an original NES controller, right next to me. Here's the original NES controller here on the right. You can see it's a little bit more yellow, but I mean, it looks identical. Even they got that little notch there. Even the little text on the back. They have some new warnings here. But yeah, I mean, it looks, amazing. Why does it say Germany? I don't know. But I mean, like, yeah, even the screws are in the same place. I think, honestly, they did a really good job with this. But I will say that, I don't know if this is because of age, but the buttons on this controller feel so much better than the original. They feel much more clicky, whereas these ones feel much more mushy. But these ones feel much more clicky, and I really like that. Only problem I have with this controller is the cable length. It is way too short. Like, way too short. It is like maybe, I don't know, 3 feet. And I think the reason is why, and this is one of the other annoyances I have with the console, is that in order to, by default, reset the game and go back to the menu where you can change games, you have to hit the reset button. There's no button on the controller to do it. That annoys the ever-loving crap out of me. And I know, I guess they want to make it like original, where you had to go take out the game, put it in, stuff like that, but I mean, especially when you're trying to do the save stage and stuff like that, you have to hit the reset button every time. That's annoying. I modded mine, so I only have to hit down and select, and that will bring back to the main menu. If the eagle-eyed among you will notice that this is the same connector that the Wii Nunchuck, Wii Pro Controller, and Wii Classic Controller use. Which, yes, you can put these in here. They will work with a Classic Controller or Classic Controller Pro, and you can use the home button on that to go back to the main menu. So if you use one of the Classic Controller or the Classic Controller Pro, it will go back to the menu. So that's good at least, and I do like that because out of the box, this only came with one controller. So if you already had one of those Classic controllers, well, you didn't need to worry about it. It worked with two, so you had two controllers already. And as a note, it does work the other way around too. If you want to use this on the Wii or Wii U via a Wii controller, it does show up as a Classic controller or a Classic Controller Pro, and you can play NES Virtual Console games with the controller, which is also really cool. And they actually advertised the feature too. It wasn't like a hidden feature, it was an advertised feature. Even though that the Wii was already outdated and the Wii U was, on its way out, they still go out of the way to tell people that, which I think is really cool. It reminds me how when the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate GameCube controllers came out, it actually advertised that on the adapter it would work on the Wii U for Smash for Wii U, and on the controller it actually advertised that it would work on the Switch, the Wii U, the Wii, and the GameCube. It actually had the GameCube logo on there and said, hey, this will work with the GameCube. And I like how Nintendo, they do stuff like this. Even though it's kind of weird they use some proprietary connector, it at least, I would say is better that they actually use the proprietary connector in this case, because yeah, it sucks you can't use it on PC, but you can use it on your Wii and Wii U, which is awesome. Not on your Switch, though. I wish they made some sort of way to have that connector on the Switch, but they did come out with the NES Online controllers anyway, so all's forgiven, I guess. But yeah, no, in terms of just the hardware, it's great. When you boot up the game, and I'm not going to show much gameplay footage of this because, it's... Other than I have to say that the emulation is really good on this console. Like, Nintendo's always been really good at emulation. Like, they've always had really good emulators for Virtual Console and Switch Online. But, this same thing here. It runs great. There's no slowdowns or anything like that. It runs great. So, there isn't really much to show in terms of the gameplay. But the menu is pretty good. As I said, if you hit the reset button to go back to the menu, it will actually give you the option to save a save state. You can have up to 4 save states, which is awesome in my opinion. It's really cool to have 4 different save states like Switch Online. At the time, Nintendo was really only having 1 save state on Wii and Wii U. I don't even remember if Wii had save states, but having save states is nice. Having 4 of them is nice as well. And honestly, that's a really cool feature as well. And just being able to switch the games and having 4 states, not just 4 save states, but 4 save states per game. And on this little console, which does not have much power, by the way. I think it has like half a gig of RAM, which, it's NES games, so I guess, but still, it's a lot of storage. But yeah, no, it's really cool that they have that feature as well. And the menu is pretty cool. There's not any options. It does have 3 modes for looking at the game. It has 4x3, Pixel Perfect, and CRT. Pretty explanatory. Pixel Perfect, the only thing is that, if you don't know this, most old game consoles have don't have square pixels, they have rectangular pixels. So Pixel Perfect just makes them all square pixels. 4x3 is just the original aspect ratio, and then CRT filter adds a CRT filter to it. Pretty cool. So this is not a ranking video, but I do have to say this is like a S tier console in terms of mini consoles. Yeah, absolutely, just S tier. It's fantastic. It definitely is a reason to do that. Another good thing about this too is it's really easy to mod. You just use the micro USB cable in the back. There's a thing called Hitachi, and you can add your own games. And I did add my own games. I added Lost Levels, and I added River City Ransom for a specific reason I'll tell you in a minute. But because I don't know why I didn't say it earlier, but this console is not a Tetris. That, I think, is a game which, other than Lost Levels, I think this console really needed to have Tetris. In my opinion, they could have taken out, Ghosts and Goblins or something like that, and put, Tetris on here. I don't know why. Maybe they asked too much for the license, but I know Tetris is considered a Game Boy thing, but I don't know. I feel like Tetris is such like a classic 80s game that it's kind of a big shame they didn't have Tetris on here, especially when Tetris was released on the Sega Genesis Mini or Sega Mega Drive Mini, depending on what region you're in, and Tetris wasn't even released on that console. It was made and it was never released. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy it got there, but I wish this console had Tetris, considering Tetris was released for this console, not for the Sega Genesis. So yeah, in my opinion, this would have had Tetris and Lost Levels. It would have been perfect, and maybe having Contra instead of Super C. But I mean, overall, definitely S-tier console. Just amazing, and there's a reason that this started the little mini console craze. So yeah, and then I'm just gonna quickly bring up a note. I do have a Famicom Mini. I'm not gonna talk about much other than just the hardware, because there isn't much to talk about, you know, or that's appropriate to talk about in this video. Maybe if you guys want to see a video on this, you can let me know. But yeah, there isn't really too much to talk about. The controllers are attached and they're small, but that's just because of the nature of the original Famicom, you know, how the controller's attached. The port doesn't open, which sucks. And I think there's like 8 games on here that aren't on it. River City Ransom is one of them. I don't know why. For some reason, this game does not have Final Fantasy 1. They both have 30 games, I should say, but this one does not have Final Fantasy 1. It has Final Fantasy 3, not the Final Fantasy 3 on the Super Nintendo. That's Final Fantasy 6. Very confusing, I know, but it does have Final Fantasy 3, and it does have River City Ransom. Let me see what games it doesn't have. Let's see. Real quick, if I can just see what games it does have. Yeah, I don't know. I don't speak Japanese. It's got most of the same games. It's got 8 that we don't have, and ours has 8. But I think they're just, you know, games that were, you know, more region specific. Like, I don't think this one has. Oh, it does have Galaga. So yeah, I don't know. Pretty cool. I don't get why it doesn't have Lost Levels still. Like, I don't know why this one doesn't have Lost Levels. But yeah, another thing to note that what is cool, it does use the Famicom Disk System games for the games that support it. So it has the better music, which is pretty cool. So yeah, honestly, pretty cool console. As well, but I don't speak Japanese and I don't really think there's much to talk about. At the end of the day, it's basically the exact same thing. Nintendo did realize they had a hit on their hands with the NES Classic Edition. So a year later, in 2017, after the Switch came out, they came out with the Super Nintendo Classic Edition. Yeah, basically the same thing. Really not much to it on this one. It is a Super Nintendo Classic Edition, only with 22 games this time, but it did include Star Fox 2, which is the first time we saw Star Fox 2 originally released, which is why I wish this one had Lost Levels, because I'm like, well, they did it for this, they should have done it for this as well. But yeah, again, if we take out the original Super Nintendo, I mean, again, it's pretty much spot on. This one actually has a little cover here for the controller ports, same controller ports again, so you can use them on the Wii and Wii U, and the classic controllers again work here as well. Get back on there. I mean, like, pretty much right on the point. HDMI cable's in the wrong place, but I think that's because this is the exact same board as the NES Classic Edition. I think they are identical on the inside. So, I mean, yeah, pretty much like right exact on, which is, you know, awesome. They of course released the Japanese one and the European one, because the European consoles use the Super Famicom design. I don't know, but yeah, it does have the same thing though, where you have power, and then the reset is the go back to the menu game. But I kind of have an issue with that. I think on the SNES they should have made the eject button the menu button. I know that would have been a bit more complicated than this, but I think it's cooler because this is the button that would eject the game. So I think this is what they should have done for the power. And actually, yeah, same thing, power LED in the front. So they did a really good job with this as well. Right on point. They have the best like looking mini consoles. Well, they at the time did. They didn't really. There was no competition at this point. So, yeah. Again, another great system. This one does come with a few more features. It came with 2 controllers this time. Again, really good recreations. I feel like the buttons are not as good as they are on the SNES Classic. Oh, these are a lot clickier, but I mean, like, yeah, I mean, feels great. Feels pretty much exactly the same. If we bring out the Super Nintendo controller here, and I mean, yeah, pretty much on point. Looks it's identical. Even the logo's in the same place. Although I wish they made the font here the same. But I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, like, pretty on point. The buttons feel a little less mushy, but I mean, not too much different than the original one. I mean, yeah, I mean, they did a great job, and they did. Oh shit! But yeah, I mean, they did make the cable a little bit longer. It's still not long enough. I'd say this one's like 6 feet. Because same thing. You want to go back to menu, you gotta hit reset. But yeah, at least they came with 2. Although they did raise the price to $80, but I think that's fair. You know, considering it came with 2 controllers, and it does have some improvements over the NES Classic Edition. The biggest one being borders. Well, that's not the biggest one. Borders. So yeah, so instead of just having the black bars on the NES Classic Edition, you can actually have borders that, you know, fill up the aspect ratio of the screen. So that's pretty cool. There's 20 of them, I think. So yeah, pretty cool. And I'd say a really big feature that they later introduced on the NES and SNES Online is rewind. You can hold down the top 2 triggers on the controller and rewind the game. So if you make a mistake in Mario Bros, for example, yeah, you can fix it, which is a really cool feature as well. Again, they blew it out of the park with the box, so I didn't mention it on the first time for even the Japanese box. They did a really good job with it, and I like how on the top it has the Classics logo and it matches the NES Classics one, which is really cool. Although for some reason they used the NES font here. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they did that back in the day. I don't know, but yeah, again, they pretty much matched the box to look exactly like the original console. And let's go through the games here again. So Contra 3, Alien Wars, yeah, Contra 3. Donkey Kong Country. They include the first one. I don't know why they didn't include 2 and 3. It's not like they don't own those games, so I don't know why they only include the first one, but yeah, of course, it makes the most sense. If they're only going to include one, they're going to include the first one, but I don't know. I think maybe they just didn't want to include, you know, a bunch of the same sort of games, although they have Mario 1 through 3 on their own, so I don't know. But yeah, I feel like they could have Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3. Earthbound. Actually, I remember at the time, a lot of people were buying this console for Earthbound, because it has been on other systems, but you know, not a lot of people had a Wii U. But yeah, this was an official way to play Earthbound, and you know, that's still a pretty rare game. So I feel like, yeah, a lot of people were buying this console for Earthbound, and you got it with that. Final Fantasy 3. This is Final Fantasy 6, not Final Fantasy 3, just so you know. I don't know why it's so confusing, because I don't know if you know this. We had until the PS1, when we had the same naming convention, and we'll talk about the PS1 in a minute. Final Fantasy 3 here is Final Fantasy 6. I think Final Fantasy 2 is Final Fantasy 3? Or maybe Final Fantasy 2 is Final Fantasy 4. I don't remember. But yeah, Final Fantasy 3 is Final Fantasy 6. So, yeah, F-Zero. Yeah, dead franchise. I know, a dead franchise. But yeah, F-Zero, of course, classic game. Kirby's Dream Course. Yeah, good game. Kirby Superstar, I like that game. It's 8 games in one thing, but the regular game, like single player mode in that game is really good. Mega Man X, good choice. Really good choice on this one. Secrets of Mana. I'm not an RPG fan, but I know that's a big game for a lot of people. It just got re-released on the Switch. Star Fox, yeah, of course, classic NES game. Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting. I don't know what the difference in the Street Fighter 2 versions are, but Street Fighter 2 is a classic game. Good thing to have. Super Castlevania 4. Yeah, really good game. I really like Super Castlevania 4, especially the music. I probably used it in this video. Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Super Mario Kart. I'm not a big fan of Super Mario Kart, but it's one of those games that just gotta be on here. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Yeah, Nintendo at the time was not really re-releasing this game much, or I think it may have been on the Wii U Virtual Console. I don't completely remember, but yeah, it's one of those games that sort of, until recently, it got that re-release recently, or remake, sorry, not the re-release, remake recently. But yeah, no, I feel like that's sort of a good game to have on there. Super Mario World, of course, classic. It would have been cool if they had Super Mario World, you know, or I'm sorry, if they had Super Mario All-Stars, but I feel like it would have been kind of weird to have that since they already have an NES Classic Edition. It's like, why are you making the NES games on the Super Nintendo version? Would have been cool, but I understand why they wouldn't put that on here. It does make sense. Super Metroid, of course. Super Punch-Out, another great game. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, fantastic game. And Yoshi's Island, I don't know why they don't call it the full name, which is Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Maybe that was a little confusing because I just had a hard time saying it, but I mean, it says it on the box there. But, yeah, and then, of course, Star Fox 2, which you had to play the first level of Star Fox to unlock. I don't know why you had to do that, but you did. But, yeah, Star Fox 2 was made and just not released back in the day because the Nintendo 64 is coming out, and I guess they were like, you know what, probably don't want to release this game. But, yeah, now they released it on here, and they have now also released it on the Super Nintendo Switch Online, which is cool as well. So you have a good way to play this game now, an official way to play this game now. But yeah, I mean, pretty cool as well. As I said, they come with 2 controllers and have those extra features. Again, not really gonna do any gameplay of this just because I have no real reason to. It's just Super Nintendo games. Again, great emulation as always from Nintendo. But yeah, these 2 consoles, especially this one, really did start this whole mini console trend. And it got their competitor Sony to make their own version with the PS Classic Edition. Yikes. Little bit of backstory here. This thing is not good. So let's discuss. The PS Classic Edition is a direct response to the NES and SNES Classic Editions. Sony wanted a piece of Nintendo's pie, but they definitely rushed this thing. I can't remember if this came out in 2018 or 2019, but good lord, this thing was $100, $20 more than the NES, the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, and it is worse in almost every way. So I don't want to completely rag on this thing. I think they would have given this thing a few months more. It would have been good, but they did not. So I do want to talk about some good things first, and that is I do like the way this console looks. Again, they did replicate the console almost identically. I don't have a one with an expansion port, unfortunately, but they actually did put the little slot for it. Mine just doesn't have the expansion port for some reason. I think this is the last console they released before the mini one, which I have right here, because I think this is this is an ugly console. I think this console is ugly. Ooh, Metal Gear Solid. I think this console is ugly, but yeah, I think the original PlayStation 1 is one of the best looking consoles ever made. It looks so cool. I love this gray color. I love that PS4 they made that looked like the original PS1. I wish I got it. And honestly, I wish they made that for the PS5. If they ever make faceplates for the PS5 that look like the original PS1, I will buy that in a heartbeat because I think this is one of the coolest looking game consoles ever made. So yeah, I mean, and that carries over here. All the buttons work, which is awesome. And a feature I do like about this, and I don't want to get too much into the software part yet, but I do like that when you have to change the discs on PlayStation games, like, you know, Metal Gear Solid is one, for example, where it does say eventually switch over to side 2. I like that you actually go up to the console and you switch the game disc. That's really cool. Now, you may be saying, Jake, but you found it annoying on the NES and SNES Classic Edition. You have to get up to change the game. You don't find it annoying? You have to get up to change the disc for the same game? Well, yeah, I don't find it annoying in that regard because on that console, for that feature, you may only play a game for like 5 minutes and then change it just so you can test out all the games. And getting up every 5 minutes to press the button, yeah, that's kind of annoying. But getting up, you know, every few hours to press the button, I feel like that's definitely a lot cooler. But yeah, the reset button does go back to the menu and stuff like that. Again, a little bit annoying, but tends to be a theme here. And of course, we will talk about the controller. Yeah, great controller. I wish they would have done the analog stick version, especially for $100. I have no clue what on earth they were talking about, but I wish they would have done the analog version. But yeah, they didn't. They did the original one. And if we compare it to the original, looks almost the same, although I think this is worn out, but I don't know why. This one has a different texture, maybe because this one's worn, but I don't feel like they had that texture originally. But maybe I'm wrong, so I'm not going to fault for that, but I am going to fault for the buttons. As far as I know, the PlayStation controllers always had these like glossy buttons. I don't know why these are matte. Maybe they use these buttons from another PlayStation controller, and that's why. So, but you know, the controller does work good, and this one actually is USB, which is cool. And I do like that the USB does look like the end of the PS1 controller. So yeah, it just sort of marks the end here. So when you plug it in, it looks exactly like how it would be when you plugged in the controller into the PlayStation 1. So yeah, really cool there. Memory card slots don't work. Would have been kind of cool if you could have like transferred your memory, but like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I do like that, and I do like that these are USB, so you can use them on PC. They're actually micro USB cables, so if you didn't want to use a controller, just want to have a fancy micro USB cable, you could do that. But yeah, the hardware itself, I actually think is really, really, really good. The problem isn't even, I would say, the software of the console. It does look like the original like PS1 menu, like if you had no disc in it. But my problem is not even necessarily the games, but oh, good lord. Okay, 20 games, even less. I don't think a single one of these games is particularly bad, although Street Fighter 2 Turbo Puzzle, yeah, that's a weird one. I heard that some people say that they wish they used GTA 2 or Twisted Metal 2 or Destruction Derby 2. I guess, I don't know, I feel like that's getting a little bit picky there. But yeah, the games on here are fine, especially it's got Final Fantasy VII, which is a big deal. But why doesn't this console have a Mega Man game or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or like, I don't know. It's like, it just feels like it's missing some stuff. I feel like it could have like 22 or 25 games. Why isn't Gran Turismo on here? That's a Sony game. They didn't even put their own game on here. Maybe because they didn't have the analog stick, but like still, like that would have been cool to have. Why didn't they do that? I don't know. It just feels like they're just wasting time. Like what? Like what? Better than Street Fighter or Super Puzzle. Super Puzzle Fighter Turbo. I can't even say the damn name. Super Puzzle Fighter Turbo. Like Mr. Driller, okay, I guess, but really? Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like any of these games are bad. That one's just weird. But yeah, I don't know. But that's not the problem with the console. No. The problem is half the ROMs, and I can't remember which ones. I'll put the list on the screen, are the European ROMs. Maybe saying, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with the Europeans? Nothing's wrong with the Europeans except the fact that their TV system in the 90s was PAL. And PAL at the time was 50 hertz, which means these games run at 50 FPS. So they run slower. Yeah, if you don't know this, when they actually re-release games in Europe and PAL countries, they use the NTSC versions. Oh, I have this upside down. They use the NTSC versions because they're better. Apparently PAL 60 is a thing, but they didn't have it. So yeah, no. So half the games are running the European ROMs, which is annoying. So the games run slow, so that's not good. And I don't know why. Like, they were able to license the European versions, but not the American versions or the Japanese versions. Like, they only got a license for one ROM? What? I don't know. I just feel like if they would have spent maybe like an extra month, you know, and maybe they would have, you know, not gotten a game like Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Yeah, hi. I'm doing this in post real quick because I am not very good at old PlayStation stuff. I'm sorry. It's not as big to me as Nintendo stuff is. Not that I don't like it, but Nintendo stuff is just more my thing. I forgot to mention some games that are also missing that should have been on here. I mentioned Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But in addition to the the big Street Fighter Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo joke, this probably should have been Street Fighter Alpha 2. I don't know why I didn't think about that at the time, but yeah, that was a big PlayStation game. I guess because I've only played on Sega Saturn, and that's why I thought about it. Didn't think about it as a PlayStation game, but no, it definitely was on PlayStation 1. So yeah, Street Fighter Puzzle. I'm doing it again. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, I think, should have been Street Fighter Alpha 2, and I think they should have had at least one Crash game and one Spyro game on here. I guess the remake trilogies were coming out around this time, and that's why they didn't want it. But yeah, no, I think they should have had one Spyro game and one Crash game on here. Maybe Crash Team Racing as well, if they wanted to have another racing game on here. But, some people were saying also Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Yeah, I'd agree with that too. Tony Hawk Pro Skater would probably be a good idea, but a Crash game and a Spyro game probably would have been necessary, and then Street Fighter Alpha 2 would have been a good one to replace this. I don't know why on earth they went with Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. What a great name to see, but yeah, so this a little bit add-on. I felt like I should have said that in the video before, so I'm adding it in now. So, it would have been, yeah, fine. This probably would have been probably not as great as the NES SNES Classic Edition, because I think 20 games they could have done a little bit more, but you know, definitely a solid like A tier. Like definitely would have been a good console even for $100. But yeah, they didn't do that for some reason. They just did not do that for some reason. They used the European ROMs, and that is, and yeah, and on top of this thing being $100, which is ridiculous. It should have probably been $80. Maybe it was $100 if they included the analog controller, but they didn't. So yeah, that's why this thing is probably at best C tier and more D tier. The only reason I don't want to kind of put in D tier is because I think the hardware is good, and again, like the other ones, not as easy to mod, but you can mod it, and you can just put a flash drive on there, which is really cool. So you know, you can actually like just plug in the flash drive, put a bunch of games on there. It doesn't have to be PlayStation games. I modded a few on here, just because that's how I am with the consoles. But I'm weird, I guess. I only, like for the example, I only would put NES games on the NES Classic and Super Nintendo games on the Super NES Classic. And I will only put PlayStation 1 games on the PlayStation Classic Edition. But, yeah, if we look at the box again, they did do a very good job with the box. It does look like old PlayStation 1 box. Good with that. I don't know why. Oh, also, this thing didn't include a power cable, or include a cable. It didn't include a power adapter, too, as you can see right here. I don't know why they did that. But, yeah. Also, I don't know why Sony does this with every single one of their consoles. Why do they always put a box within a box? Like, I get that they did that with the PlayStation, like the main PlayStation consoles, so that way they could use the same box on the inside for the special editions, and then just change the like outside part. Because yeah, I get that's just sort of annoying to have to do that. But like, oh my god, this thing's dusty as well. But like at the same time, like why did they do that for this? Like I don't know. Sony just weird sometimes, but. Yeah, that's not really anything good or bad, just sort of weird. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it would have been cool if they did a PlayStation 2 version, but I feel like PlayStation 2 emulation is sort of kind of hard. But yeah, that is the PlayStation Classic Edition. It sucks, mostly. If you mod it and put the games on you want, which you shouldn't have to do, I don't think it's bad. I think it's pretty cool at that point if you mod it. But, you know, you can technically mod one of those and play PlayStation 1 games, so... Or you play it on emulators. But, I mean... I don't... It sucks. I think even if the ROMs, like, were just the American ROMs, or even the Japanese ROMs, it would have been a better console. But, like, I don't know which ROMs were the European ones, but, like, I think one of them was, like, Twisted Metal Destruction Derby. That's a racing game. Do you want to have, like, a slow racing game, like, where it's running slower? I don't think, well, not racing, but you know, car driving game, you want to have that running slower? No! No, that would suck. So, yeah. That is the end of the mini consoles. Only ones I wish I had for this video that I do not have are the I wish I kind of had the Super Famicom Mini, but it wouldn't really change the video much. I do wish I had the 2 Genesis Classic Editions. I think it was pretty cool what they did for the Genesis Classic Edition, where they had a first version which looked like the original Sega Genesis, and then they had a second edition that looked like the second Sega Genesis. That was pretty cool. I think they even made a little Sega CD add-ons for it, and Sega 32X add-ons on it, which is cool. Would have been cool. Actually, a good cool thing to note is there's actually little third-party add-ons for the Super Famicom version, like a Super Famicom disk system, which is where you can keep all the cables, which I think is really cool for that as well. I don't have it, unfortunately, but yeah, I wish I had those. But you know, it's cool. I don't know if they changed the games per region on the PlayStation Classic Edition. I'll add it in post if they did and didn't. But yeah, this video took a lot longer to record than I thought it would. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. I think my next video is not going to be Nintendo based, because this video wasn't a Nintendo video, but it kind of was a Nintendo video. But I think I'm gonna do something that's non-Nintendo based for a little bit, just so I can have a little bit of variety. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. Look out for the next video. I should be uploading pretty consistently now, hopefully at least once per week. But yeah, and I hope the 4K video also turns out good. This is probably gonna be the largest video file I've made, considering the video is now 45 minutes long. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Comment, like, subscribe. Bye.